Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel. And this is my first impressions look on the brand new Nike Kyrie Flytrap 5. So the Kyrie Flytrap line is Kyrie Irving's kind of budget shoe line. But anyways, this shoe is going for $90. So if you guys do want to cop, I'll leave a link in the description box. Pretty damn cheap. But let's get it started off with the Tracciones, and of course they recycled the outsole and the midsole from the Kyrie Flytrap 4. As you guys can see, it's pretty much identical, and the only thing that can be different is the rubber compound. And of course the rubber compound here on the Kyrie Flytrap 4 wasn't that nice. I just never got a good bite, especially on dust. When it was a clean court, it was pretty good, but on dust it was horrific actually. Like, it was pretty dangerous. I would slide out a lot. So it's pretty hard for me to recommend it to people. So as we've seen in a lot of budget shoe lines, especially from Nike, is that they recycle the outsole and midsole, which kind of sucks. You know, they recycle it pretty much for 2 years. So we got the 4 and the 5, and you know, we've seen it in like the Kobe's, you know, in like the Mamba Rage, and also now in the LeBron Witness 4 to the 5. So you know, Nike's always done this, but hopefully, you know, the Kyrie Flytrap 5 rubber compound is a little bit different. Also, one thing that they did change a little bit though is, if you guys can see here on this part of the outsole, this is still the outsole, which is pretty interesting, is that there's lines here in the 5 and there's pretty much nothing here in the 4. So I guess they did change up the design a little bit there. And also you have this teeth pattern as well, which is pretty similar to the Kyrie 1 as well as the Kyrie 7. So like I mentioned before, the Kyrie Flytrap 4 was pretty bad. But the Kyrie Flytrap 5 seems a little bit better. You know, just trying it on my wood floors, it seems like it has a pretty good bite, and also there is a little bit of a squeak as well. So hopefully they changed out the rubber compound a little bit and the Flytrap 5 is good. Of course, we have the iconic outsole curvature like we've seen in like all of Kyrie's shoes now. So that feels super nice. And also, as far as the durability goes, durability is going to be very good. The Flytrap 4 I played on an outdoor court a lot, and there's really not a lot of wear and tear on the rubber. The rubber is actually pretty hard, the grooves are thick, so I feel like the Flytrap 5 is going to be good as well. Alright, moving on to the heel to toe transition. It seems pretty smooth. I mean, it's probably going to be the same as the 4. You know, the heel has a nice curved shape. The midsole is fully exposed, so it feels pretty nice, although the midsole or the foam is pretty stiff, as you guys could have guessed. Here in the forefoot, we have a very nice curved shape. Look at that. And as far as the forefoot flex goes, it doesn't really flex in the forefoot. It flexes more in the midfoot. Look at that. Look at that. So I don't know how torsional support is going to be. We'll have to see how my arch and my foot feels when I play in it. But overall, heel to toe transition is probably going to be the same as the 4, and it was good in the 4. So there's that. Moving on to the cushioning setup. So I mean, it's a Flytrap model and it's also a Kyrie. So yeah, Kyries aren't known for having good cushion. It says air zoom here on the outsole, which is like, oh, there's a zoom unit in here. And yeah, actually there is a zoom unit in the forefoot, and it feels pretty nice. It feels like, you know, the long rectangular shape, but it feels like it's top loaded. I could definitely feel it on my foot, although it is that thin rectangular unit, so you can feel it only in a very small area on your foot, like in the forefoot. It's still pretty nice, I guess. And then here in the heel, the foam, there's a little bit of compression. There's actually, look at that. Look at how many compression marks there are on the midsole already. So I feel like this foam, although it feels like kind of soft right now, it'll probably stiffen up and bottom out pretty quickly when I play in it. A court feel seems pretty good, and it feels like a very responsive cushion. I definitely do like a little bit of bounce and a little bit of compression that you get from the zoom in the forefoot. Here in the Kyrie Flytrap 4, I couldn't really feel the zoom unit as much. I could feel a little bit of an outline of the zoom unit, but it wasn't like bouncy and it didn't have that much compression, especially comparing it to the 5. So I feel like they upgraded it a little bit here in the Kyrie Flytrap 5. As far as the materials go, here in the forefoot, we have some mesh, and it feels pretty flimsy. It feels very cheap as well, and it looks really cheap, right? I mean, you can't really complain. It's a $90 shoe, but it's a really, really thin material. So on foot, I guess it feels pretty nice, you know, conforms to your foot, it feels minimal and all that. Here on, like in the midfoot area, on the lateral and medial side of the shoe, we have a little bit of fuse, and we got some lines going through there, which is, I guess, pretty interesting. And then in the midfoot, on both the lateral and medial sides of the shoe, we have this, like, it feels like that Element 55 material, but a little bit stiffer, like a little bit more plasticky, but also it's see-through. as you guys can see, like you can see my finger through this material, so it's really, really thin. Here in the ankle area, we have like a textile material, and then on the medial side, it says 1123. But the overall material, especially here in the forefoot and here in the midfoot, feels extremely thin. The tongue has very minimal padding, as well as the ankle area. I mean, the ankle area also has like very minimal padding as well. One thing that's pretty interesting is the lacing system. So we have straps that kind of turn into eyelets on both sides of the shoe. And as you guys can see, we have white straps here on the lateral side and kind of like a volt color here on the medial side. And it's actually pretty cool. These straps go all the way down into the actual material and connects with the midsole right here. So it goes all the way down. And when you tighten these laces, it tightens the strap here on top of your foot, right? So right now, I can't really feel it all too much. You know, I feel like it does pretty much the same as like what the laces do. You know, when you tighten the laces here, it tightens down here on top of your foot. So I can't really tell all too much if it's tightening like even more on top of my foot with this strap system, but it's definitely really cool. It looks great, and I feel like it'll definitely help with support. But right now, I don't really feel it all too much as far as like helping with lockdown goes. All right, moving on to the fit of the shoe. I went true to size and fits me very well. My toes pretty much go right to the edge of the shoe. Width-wise, I would say it's slightly narrow, and here in the toe box, it's a little snug. I would say there's just a tiny bit of dead space. I can curl my toes up just a tiny bit. It's not super snug like the KD 14 or the Kyrie 7, but it's still a snug fit. So if you have a thick foot or you like to have a roomier fit, I would suggest going up half a size. Also, the shoe is quite easy to put on. It doesn't really have a crazy heel tab, but this part does extend up so that it's a little bit easier to put your foot into the shoe. All right, as far as support and lockdown goes, I mean, it's a Kyrie, and Kyries usually don't have any problems with support or lockdown. And for lateral containment here in the forefoot, I feel like you're gonna be good. If I put the material down all the way, you can see that the rubber outsole does act as a sidewall a little bit. You know, it doesn't really look like it does, but once you put the material down, you can definitely tell that this part kind of comes up a little bit. And then here in the heel, we have the foam coming up a good amount, and there is an internal TPU heel counter. So lateral containment, I feel like is going to be good. For lateral stability though, I don't know, like it's not the widest shoe, and there's also not an outrigger, and also it's pretty rounded here. So hopefully there's not a whole lot of issues with lateral instability. But remember in like the Kyrie Flytrap 2 or 3, I think it was, where it had that crazy curved shape and it was pretty narrow, but I really had no issues with that. So hopefully that's the same here in the Kyrie Flytrap 5. And also it's like I had no issues with lateral instability for the 4, and it's pretty much the exact same shape. So I don't think I'm gonna have any issues with the 5. All right, as far as the weight of the shoe goes, it's probably going to be light. You know, budget shoes usually, because of the lack of tech, are very light. So I'm guessing like 10, 11 ounces? Yeah, so 10.58 ounces. Let's check the left pair, and it's 10.79 ounces. So pretty damn, that's actually very, very light. It feels super minimal. It feels very light on foot as well, but it definitely feels like a cheap shoe. As far as the aesthetics go, I kind of like it. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the lines, I guess, but the overall silhouette I feel like looks pretty good, especially comparing it to the Kyrie Flytrap 4. You know, I feel like it looks a little bit better. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, the Kyrie Flytrap 5 is looking pretty nice. You know, it feels a little upgraded from the 4. The 4 was absolutely horrendous just because of the traction. And the 5, like I said, seems a little bit better, and I feel like they might have changed up the rubber compound a little bit. The cushion so far feels a little bit nicer because of that forefoot zoom unit. I mean, for the material, it's not a huge difference, you know. I mean, the Flytrap 4 also wasn't like that bad. It's super thin and all that, conforms to your foot. Same thing with the 5. So hopefully the Kyrie Flytrap 5 can redeem the Flytrap line, because the 4 I really didn't like. I mean, remember the 1? The 1 was super nice. The 2 was super nice. The 3 was pretty nice. The 4 I didn't like. So hopefully the 5 I definitely do like. It's looking pretty good so far though. So anyways, that about concludes my first impressions look on the Kyrie Flytrap 5. Again, if you guys do want to cop, I'll leave a link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.